Okay, so now that we have worked through the no niche breakthrough and you know exactly who your client types are, what services match with their needs, and how you're going to talk to those clients, let's streamline your sales by packaging how you're going to bring leads, prospects, and clients through the incredible work that you do. Now, the way that I do this isn't by stuffing you in some type of you must have a 12-week signature offer. It's about breaking down how you want to serve your clients into a client ready package for them. So I'll walk you through this workbook to figure out how you're going to do that, and we'll do it together. So I do want to say on the right hand side, you'll see, or on the left hand side, you'll see an example, and then the right hand side is the blank workbook. I will say you want to focus on one client type at a time. Go through this entire workbook, and then if you find yourself wanting to work with different client types, make a copy. So I would probably have a template in my drive if I were you, and then make a copy for every client type. That way you have a clean template to start with. And or if you're a pen and paper person like me, you could also print these out and fill them out that way. Okay. All right, next, let's talk about part one. So, this is about mapping your client transformation. Once you kind of fully understand what that main transformation is, things just go a lot easier. So, our goal is to identify the journey your client take from first contact, working with you, and results. So on the left here, the example is high performing executive that's seeking balance. So this was who we were kind of pulling from before in our first breakthrough. So map the client journey. What do I mean by client journey? So first contact. So we want to know, what is their initial mindset? What's the conversation that they're having in their head? What do they say? So that's where you'll put in example phrases and things that you find them saying. And then how do you support them through that first contact or whatever stage they're at? So what's a service or modality or breakthrough or something that you share with them that gives them that aha moment? And then what initial relief or insight did they get? So that first contact, an example of that would be they're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and stuck in work-life imbalance. They say, I don't have time for anything. I feel like I'm always behind. And you're supporting them with a 15-minute clarity call, right? So that way they can hop on a call. You're not taking hours of their time and you can identify what's going on with them. Initial assessment questions. They start to feel seen and understood and gain immediate insight into what's possible, as well as like what their goals might be. So that would be a way that you could do that. So, first contact is before they purchase with you. Initial engagement is going to be when you start working with them. So, they're curious but cautious, still unsure how this whole thing is going to go. I don't know if I can commit right now. And that's when you'll introduce structured mini sessions, outline flexible options, and then early wins, feel hope, and see potential for balance. I thought I wrote that wrong, but that's what we mean. So this first contact is the first time they reach out to you. The initial engagement, I would say, is they're still deciding if they want to work with you, and or that first time that they start jumping in with you and actually have started the work. Maybe they bought a mini session or a couple of sessions or a month. That's that section. Then the core process, this is when the deep work happens. So this is when they're actively engaged. What steps are they going through to go through that transformation? What are some of the phrases that they're saying as they're experiencing your tools? And then how do you support them? So exactly what are those services or modalities matched to each step? And then what is the outcome? So those are going to be milestones, visible results. So for this, the core process is personalized sessions with breathwork, CBT tools, and time management tools. Feeling calmer after our session, this actually works, are some of the things they're saying. You're doing step-by-step one-on-one coaching, practical exercises, check-ins, and the outcome is reduced stress, clearer priorities, improved decision-making, consistent self-care routines. Then completion and follow-up. So this is going to be once they do the initial. So one of the things I've always had an issue with the 12-week signature programs and kind of stuffing all practitioners into that mindset is that a lot of the times the work that you do is going to take more than 12 weeks. And or it could be something where you want to have this client that comes back to you time and again for different life transitions For example, if you're a therapist and you help somebody through a divorce, and then maybe years later, they're starting to run into, or a year later even, they're starting to run into issues with family dynamics. You can still help them and support them in that way. And you don't have to have them in this 12-week container every time. But this initial working with you, what does that work with? What do you want somebody time frame wise to work with you to start understanding your process, getting to know you, and starting to see results? What's that time frame? So that I think is more important than a 12-week program and they go through the 12 weeks and you never talk to them again. So really what this all is about is, okay, here's the maintenance plan, which could be, instead of doing weekly sessions, you meet bi-weekly. As a practitioner and somebody who's in practice, you likely already do something like this. What is that retainer? And then what's the outcome of having that kind of maintenance check-in? And then we can do more intense things as needed if life changes, as it does. Okay, so now that we've kind of mapped the client journey, I like to do a quick reflection because I think sometimes kind of mapping all that is heavy. So what stages feel the easiest to deliver? What stages create aha moments? So just kind of brainstorming, like, what are the things that you do every time you do it with a client? They're like, oh, that's so wonderful. For me, the thing that always is like an aha moment is when I do my messaging and tone guides. So this is just this kind of full guide that's similar to the work that we're doing in here, but I do it for my one-on-one clients. And it's really talking deeper about, what they do, who they serve, and, how they match their offers with that, and creating that kind of user pathway that we're doing. So that's something that people come to me thinking they need a website and need email, but what they really need is clarity on who they serve, how they serve, and offers that match their client types, right? Okay, you get it. So then where do clients often get stuck and how do you guide them through it? So a lot of my clients get really, really stuck on things like logos or branding or font or colors. And while those things are very, very important, they're very simple to switch out and shift and change as needed. So people will hang on, like, what font do I need to use for months, and won't publish a site because they don't know what font they want to use, or they don't have a professionally designed logo. And so just putting, Courtney's coaching program out there. So how I guide them through it is I always have us focus on what's moving the needle in your business. How can you get clients that are the right fit clients to you? That's always the most important part of the business. If you're not selling anything, you're not a business. And so that's what I always try to kind of do. So that would be a section that you could fill that in. Okay, so section 2 is all about defining your core process. So this is going to be giving your work a process name and breaking it into steps so clients understand exactly what to expect. You can do this for up to 3 client types. Again, I would suggest focus one at a time. So you'll go back to the journey map that we just did and highlight the key stages where you create results. So what are those common and emotional behavior shifts? So where do clients feel relief, clarity, or transformation? So many exercises and wins help them feel like they're making progress. So once they are able to handle high stress situation differently than they would have before, that's usually a big breakthrough. What parts do you enjoy? So breath work, goal setting, getting into their values. That's kind of the thing that you'll focus on. Now, once you have that, you'll break those into core steps. So this is how you're going to start kind of creating whatever your methodology is. So maybe first you clarify priorities, uncover what matters most to them. Then you work on reducing their mental load. And you can do this through delegation or breath work, mindfulness exercises, somatic things. Then from there, once you've kind of gotten them to a level playing field, right? Because they're down here and you're trying to get them to do things, they aren't even at a normal pace of life yet. Once they're there, then it's about building the consistent habits, integrating tools and practices into daily life. And then maybe for this person, the big thing they want to do is have better decision making because they have issues prioritizing their personal and professional life. Well, that's when step 4 is going to be strengthen decision making with CBT techniques to manage stress or DBT or whatever it is that you use. And then the step 5 is all about maintaining balance. So long-term routines, optional check-ins. So this is a really simplified version of this, but yours could look totally different. Maybe you do a values map first. And then from that values map, you identify, okay, well, these are the 3 places that they need to work on. And maybe it's their personal life and their health and So those are the two things that or relationships, I should say. So then you focus on their relationships and their health. So whatever that process is, even though your actual program and the work you do with a client is going to be different based on their individual and complex life, you very likely approach clients the same way. That's how I am. Everybody's website that I design and everybody's copy is totally different, but I take them through the same process every time because I know it works and because it systemizes in a way that allows me to make sure they're getting results and that we're achieving the result that they want together, whatever that may be. So this is where you're really going to start focusing on that. Take your time here. Thinking client outcomes, thinking experiences. Don't think too heavily in like internal jargon, right? So this is kind of that. Okay, so now we're going to name your process. Now, a lot of people get stuck here, so don't overthink it. Honestly, the name of your program is something that you can very easily change. And I think because a lot of practitioners we are higher education folks in general, that we overthink and hang on every single word when having the specific word isn't as important as creating clarity for the people that want to work with you. So I wouldn't say don't get too hung up. I mean, everybody has their certain words. Like I don't like using the word calm, so everybody has their little nuanced things, and that's completely fine. But don't get so bogged down here. You're like, I'm picking this name and it's stamped in stone. This is all written in pencil, not in pen. And the great thing about online presence is you can just click edit on any web page at any time and change the name of something. So don't get too hung up on this, but what I like to do is think about like metaphors that you like. So I really love charting courses. I love sea metaphors. I love ocean metaphors. I don't know why I draw to them, but maybe you like reset or flow or pathway. Maybe those are the kind of metaphor that you like for what you take people through. I always say we chart the course to XYZ, whatever that looks like for you. And then some of the transformations client have, I just said I don't like calm, and I put that in the example here. But, what are some transformations? So calm, more mentally sharp, better decision making, prioritizing life and work. Any vibe or fun notes that align with your personality. So professional, I definitely, if you're working with executives, you don't want to have something that's really funky out there. You want something that's very clear, very professional, and motivating. So some examples of this would be the executive reset method, the grounded parent pathway. If you're working with parents and you are helping them stay more grounded in their parenting, the calm and confident framework. I just said I don't like calm and I put it in so many places here. It's funny. And so kind of whatever that looks like for them, I said the executive reset method. So just kind of naming your process and what it is that you do and who you help and how you help them. Okay, so now that we have your process name, we're going to map the services and modalities to each step. So we talked a little bit about the steps above of what that would look like, your core, the core steps. So now we're going to kind of map out the modalities and then the client outcomes that come with that. And this is just going to kind of help us deepen our understanding of each step that we take clients through and why we do it and how it helps. It's really going to help you start wrapping your brain around what language you use when you're talking to referral partners and sources, when you're collaborating, when you're wanting to do keynote speeches, all those kind of things is really going to be helpful for that. So the first step is goal clarification exercise, let's say. And then so the outcome is naming their priorities and what direction they want to go in. The second step is mindfulness. So this reduces stress, clear thinking, better decision making. And then the third, as we mentioned, was habit building worksheets and check-ins. So this is consistent application of tools. It's motivating. They're starting to see progression, and they want to, start moving forward. And then CBT sessions and decision-making frameworks. This improves productivity, getting more done with less stress, and removing overwhelm. Then the values framework, maybe you have something like that. This is going to start to work towards building a life filled with their values and what they love instead of filled with what they think they needed to be happy. And then maybe once they've kind of done this work, it's all about that self-worth. So they're no longer striving for things out of their control, tying their worth to who they are and not what they can accomplish. So those are just some kind of client outcomes and the steps that you want to go through. Okay, so once we've done this, I kind of want to just do a check-in. So go back through everything, think about what you've just written and make sure, does the process feel natural to explain to clients? Can you kind of have a conversation of, I know as a high-powered executive, you have very minimal time. So what I have done is I create little mini breathwork sessions you can do right before big meetings so that you can be calmer and more grounded. I said calm again. You can be more grounded in the meeting. Something like that. Would a client understand each step and why it's valuable? So you want to make sure that that's a check. Are there steps that could be combined or simplified? So I do find a lot of time when we start naming all of our core processes, we kind of start putting in a bunch of things that maybe are all the same thing. So, especially with mindfulness. So let's say you do journaling exercises, you do audio visualizations, and you do yoga practices. Well, all three of those could be combined into mindfulness. And you can just talk about these are the tools that I pull from depending on where you are and what you need. Okay. And then if you repeat for another client tip, do the steps overlap or need small tweaks? This is mainly just for, do you really have a bunch of different client types or are you overthinking and coming up with too many client types? So this is kind of what that question is for. Okay, so step 3 is bundling your services into offers. Now, I know I mentioned before, I'm not forcing you to do a 12-week signature offer. We're finding a way to use your modalities to attract dream clients. So the first thing that we'll do is kind of start breaking things up into different levels of offers. So you'll want something that is an entry level offer. So somebody that wants more information from you and or a peek into your services and what you do and how you work without taking time on your calendar. That's going to be an entry level offer. So this package that you've actually purchased for me is an entry level offer. You can see how I think through things. You're able to kind of get some things finished and accomplished. And I've provided some information for you in order to take quick action and move to the next step. So I'm not saying you have to create a full, offer like I've done $100 offer, but you could do something like a 5-day video series or something like that. And this can be kind of like, what are the steps in your core process that are quick wins for clients? For me, it's the work that we're doing here. It's being able to identify what services and modalities I have, what client types make sense, and then building my offers around that. So that is kind of like what you're able to get done in this, plus the templates to be able to actually publish your web pages and things online. So maybe for them, it's breathwork and mindfulness exercises developed for executives. So this could be, like I mentioned before, right before big meetings or presentations. So maybe you do, a 5 quick audio breathwork exercises developed for executives, and it's a free download or it's $10 or something like that. That's an entry level offer. So we're starting to think about our core process and break them up into ways that people can learn more about our style, work with us, and jump in with us without it feeling super gimmicky and like I'm just coming up with stuff or whatever ChatGPT tells me. So this kind of notes. Now the second one is going to be a mid-ticket offer. This is or mid-level offer. This is something that you can develop once you have the entry level and the high level or high touch offer. But a mid is going to be something that creates a notable difference, gets clear on their mindset, and begins them in that space, but isn't quite one-on-one where you're taking all your time. So an example for this would be get clear on their mindset, mental health goals, maybe creating a workshop around that. That is, a live workshop with 2 sessions and it's a group and there's Q&A. That's something that would take your time, but it's not one-on-one time, right? So an example of this for me is I do done with you offers where I kind of coach people through what it is that they need to do at each step. And then I review their work. I provide them feedback. I answer any kind of questions that come up, but it's more in a group format. I'm not doing anything one-on-one. I'm not actually writing their copy for them. I'm not designing their pages for them. They're using my templates and my frameworks to build their own stuff, and then I'm giving them feedback. So that's like a mid-level offer, right? It's not as much as my full, 5-figure done for you stuff, but it's also not $97, right? It's somewhere in between. So then the high touch offer, that's going to be your full, in an ideal world, this would be like what you would want to do with every client. That's a high touch offer. That's your full process with deep, lasting results. This will be the system that will feel good for them. And so for that, it would be the one-on-one working together. Okay, So now that we've kind of started thinking about that, let's actually define them into offer tiers. So as I mentioned before, the low touch or entry offer, you can kind of map out like what service or modality you want to use, a format that makes sense, and then the outcome for clients and pricing ideas. The idea here for offer one is to be it should be free to under $30. This isn't something, that you're going to want to have because you're working one-on-one in a coaching session, right? That's not what I'm doing. I'm offering templates and things like that. You'll want it to be something that is affordable and a no-brainer. So this could be breathwork audio. This could be mindfulness stretch videos, decision-making webinar video, things like that. And then this could also be digital resources, workbooks, journals, things like that as well. So then offer two is going to be that mid-tier offer that we talked about again. So this could be mid-tier. It should be a meaningful investment, so $70 to $200, depending on the scope. I've actually seen people do something that's a group coaching offer that's for months and months. That's not what this is, but that is a lower price point than one-on-one. But maybe you do something like 3 live sessions in a group, and that could be $97 or $297, right? And then mindfulness, I know I just said $200, but if you're going to be doing sessions live like that, you could charge more. If you're going to be doing them pre-recorded, or it's something that they already, like a course, something like that, that would be the $97 idea. So then a mindfulness. So let's say you want to do guides or templates in a mini audio series, maybe one-on-one session to help them map out their goals. You could do something like that. The one-on-one session would be part consult, kind of that initial consult, part discovery call, part, helping them figure out like how they can continue working with you, right? So that would be some things. So ideas, brainstorming offers, maybe a focused executive method, the mindful executive workshop, things like that. And then finally, we are going to move into your high value package. So this is the one, again, I'm not going to stuff you into a 12-week package, but if you want to start with a 3-month package, you can. So I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to force you to do that if that doesn't make sense. So this should be your full rate. So let's say, if you charge $150 an hour and it's 8 weeks, or, that would be like $1,200 to $1,500. I always include time for admin. So it would be like an hour for the session and then an hour for admin, because that is part of the work that you do, especially if you're a life coach and this isn't something that you're billing for. So that is kind of how I do that pricing. Okay, so I do think a beginning duration should be at least a month, because one session, 2 sessions, buying one-off sessions oftentimes doesn't yield results. And so I'm very much like, if somebody is wanting very specific outside of this framework, you can absolutely abide by that. Or, hey, I have one person that just needs to do 2 sessions, that's fine. This is what you want most of your people to go through. So there will always be outliers. I take on random packages and consulting things all the time that are way outside of my templated, my 3 main offers, which is a DIY template space, a done with you kind of coaching space, and then a done for you where I take care of everything space. Those are my 3 main offers. But of course, people come to me and want things outside of that framework, and I'm happy to do what I can. And so this is what you want to take most people through, right? So for this one, we did like an 8-week. Okay, so it will take about 8 weeks to clarify priorities, start to reduce that mental load, introduce the habits, take on the stressor work together. So typically, especially if you want to help them tackle something that they're going through, you want to have at least 1 or 2 months, because you need something to happen so you can help them work through it, right? Maybe there's a weird email at work, or they're having a kind of crash out day, like whatever that looks like, you want to make sure that there's time in the container for that. So you can also, maybe you do a one-on-one call one week, and then the next week you send them homework and action items. And then, or maybe you do 6 calls over 8 weeks. Like you have the ability to do whatever makes sense for you here. And so that is kind of how we laid this out. And then there's a pricing. Now, if you're doing coaching where you're getting pricing outside of insurance, you can do one-time payments or payment plans. I typically find that when I do payment plans, adding a finance fee is helpful just because that's what happens when we have to break it up. So I would do $500 for 3 months. But you could add a finance fee if you want, or if you take care of the finance fee internally, then you could do a $1,500 payment and then 3 $500 payments. So that is how you will start taking your core offer and your modalities and turning them into a core offer. Okay, so now that you have your 3 offers, and even if you're not in a place to create a mid-ticket offer or a mid-level offer, just brainstorming what that could look like is helpful, because first I want you to do a capture interest offer and a high ticket offer, because you want a way for people that are interested in what you do, learn and getting to know you, to come in very easily. And then you want people that have been wanting to work with you. You want something to send them, whether that's your link in bio or through referral partners and sources. You want to be able to have something there. The mid-ticket offer is something you can develop once you've worked in your business a while. Okay, so section 4 is positioning your offer in client language. So this is really talking about creating a client-friendly description based on your 3 offers. So this one, the entry level, we're saying it says audio guides, immediate stress relief, sense of calm, so quick calm reset. A mid-ticket, to improve focus, start building a life you love. So this focus executive flow gives you the tools and coaching to finally feel in control of your priorities. And then a high ticket would be deep transformation, sustainable routines, and confidence. So the executive reset method walks you step by step to lasting balance, better decision making, and a calmer yet still productive life. I've been using calm even though I don't use calm. That's so funny. Okay, so then what I like to do, so now that you kind of have, these are my offers, this is what's in the offer, this is about what I'm going to charge pricing wise. Now it's all about preparing for conversations and objections. So objections to me are really just questions. I don't think that most people that say things to me that are, about pricing or about time or about effort or about, will this work? They're really just questions that they have. And so you want to make sure that you have all of those ready to go. It's helpful for me. So that's what I put in here. So when someone asks you what you do, I say, I help high-performing executives reset their mindset, manage stress, create lasting balance using personalized wellness and coaching tools. The first thing I do with a client is, the first thing I help is clients leave feeling. The FAQ prep. I'm not sure I have time for this. I've tried X before. I realize I never answered the third question, but so if you're looking for a sustainable way to create a professional and personal life without sacrificing everything you've built, this is for you. That would kind of answer that, like, is this for me? And then you can add any FAQs, below here. Okay, so we have now curated and created what your offer stack and suite will look like based on my method for figuring out offers for practitioners. So once you've kind of named your process and created these core steps and then started thinking about what are different ways that people can experience my method, which I think it sounds so much better than my 12-week signature offer. Now we're going to take that and we're going to create some web pages that express and explain this in a way that allows people to start working with you now, tomorrow. You can send this to them without having to redesign and your whole entire online presence. You'll be able to do that. So that is what we're going to work on next. And then you'll be done.